Hello everyone. Welcome to Gaga's farmhouse. As you can see, I'm not at the farmhouse right now. I'm sitting in a parking lot in my car. I had to get out of the house. I'll explain that a little bit. But first of all, I want to kind of tell you what to expect from my channel. You can expect, since I'm 78 years old, you can expect for me to talk and wander. My brain is going to wander around. That's what happens. And do not expect professional microphones or intro music. Not going to happen. I'm not going to learn how to edit, so this is it. I hit play and I hit stop, and that's it. And what else? Well, I guess that's it. Anyway, I had to get out of the farmhouse because it's chaos over there. I think I mentioned yesterday that 8 years ago we retired and moved down south, and at that time we did a big downsize. And now that we've come back to northern Illinois, we've downsized again. But we brought all of our furniture and a lot of the stuff, because we didn't have a house here at the time. We didn't know what we would need, what would fit, wouldn't fit. So we put everything in the pods and put the pods in storage. And we use the pods because they're basically the only ones that allow you to store your items, furniture and items. The big movers charge a fortune. I mean, an absolute fortune if you think you're going to store it. So after we got here, there's a little more to that story, but we'll do that another day. When we got here, we did find a house pretty quick. We had a fantastic realtor. He was really great. And I did talk my husband into taking his advice, because my husband, I don't know, he gets his own ideas on things, and I tried to tell him, look, this guy's the professional. He does this every day. He knows what he's doing, so we're going to take his advice, which we did. Excuse me. And we got very lucky. We found a house that's only 3 years old. It doesn't need any work. The inspector came in. What's he going to inspect? It was all pretty new. So we're very happy. But now I had to get out of the house because it's just filled with furniture that I'm a whole lot of stuff that I'm going to have to start selling. And I do really well on Marketplace. I don't know, my son gives me things. He goes like, Mom, oops, sorry there. He says, Mom, we got to get rid of this. Can you put it on Marketplace for me? Because you have really good luck selling. So that's what I'm going to do. And here's the thing about moving and downsizing. I had a very big house in St. Charles, Illinois here, that there were 5 of us in the house, 3 adults, because we had my mother-in-law living with us, and we had the 2 kids that when we moved in there, they were teenagers. So it was perfect, and it was a perfect house for entertaining. I loved entertaining. We had parties. We had big, almost 2 acres, so we had land, and it was fabulous. And I know people, and I have friends that hold on to that way past the time when it's served its purpose, and it becomes like a millstone around their neck, really, because the 2 acres to mow, I mowed it for 26 years, and it took almost 2 hours to mow. I did enjoy being outside in the fresh air and everything, but as you get older, that gets to be a chore. So I had no problem with downsizing. we found a very nice house down in Hot Springs Village, Arkansas, outside of Hot Springs. And it was one level, which was perfect. I had to get rid of a lot of things. But again, I for some reason, I didn't have a problem with that. They served their purpose while I had them. I had collections. Oh gosh, I was a collector. One of my collections was I would go to Goodwill or thrift stores. I know I'd find creamers that were somehow separated from their sugar bowls. And I felt sorry for them, so I started collecting them. Well, then when I moved, first of all, I'm not going to, have the movers take an entire box of creamers down to Arkansas. So I went through things, I got through things, but the one thing the house in Arkansas had was a whole room in the garage that I couldn't figure out what it was for, but then I found out from somebody that knew the woman that lived there before, it was an entire room to house her out-of-season clothing. Let that sit with you for a while. Well, I don't have that much out-of-season clothing that I can fill the whole room. And although I do have my grandmother's coats and furs, you can't store them in there because of the heat. So I had a handyman put shelves in there, and I created something I always wanted, is a butler's pantry. And I started collecting again. I filled that butler's pantry with serving pieces, dishes, vintage barware. I love vintage barware. Let's see, crock pots, all kinds of cookery items. I had I had a couple of those gallon drink dispensers. And I proceeded, when they moved there, I proceeded to entertain. But it was different. First of all, when I give a party, come, enjoy yourselves. But I had people that we were meeting, we were building some kind of camaraderie, and I would invite people to a party, and they would decline. And I thought, well, this is kind of, what's going on here? What am I doing? And my friend who's lived there for many years did explain to me that they don't like to accept those kind of invitations. They'll go out to a restaurant or something, but they don't like to come to a party in your home because they feel like they have to reciprocate and invite you back to their home. And I'm not about that at all. I don't expect you to invite me back. I have a party because I want to have a party. So it got a little, it was a little dicey. And then COVID hit. So everybody stayed home. And then after COVID was over, it was like people didn't want to get back in the social thing. So I had this entire room, this entire beautiful butler's pantry filled with beautiful things. And then when we made the decision to move back to Illinois, I had to make a decision. I love these things, but I'm going to have to downsize. I'm going to be in a smaller house. I'm not going to have a butler's pantry. I'm going to have a basement, but I don't know. I have a thing about not filling that basement up with stuff. So I got rid of most of that, and I was fine with it. So I hope. Do you have problems with this? I know I have problems. So I'm going to stop right here. I did make one decision that I got rid of some things that there was like there was history, there was an emotional attachment to it, and I said to myself, stop. And I did split those items up. I kept a few pieces of it, and I got rid of the rest of it. And I'll be honest with you, I kind of regret. That is the one thing I regret, because there was a history there with these items. And The other items I had just picked up as collections along the way. So I guess you got to be careful about, what you're downsizing. So do you have a problem with this? I don't know. I I have people who are I know people that are super attached to their home, and it's way too big. It's way too much for them. And my fear is, I love these people, and my fear is that they're going to be forced into the decision in an emergency situation, and it ain't going to be pretty. And I don't want that for them. I wish they could make the decision. Again, this is with your health, with everything. You need to make the decision before it gets made for you. And this is from years of, we dealt with our elderly parents, and we saw all this in action. And you can't. You've got to be realistic. You've got to accept what's happening to you, or you're going to be totally miserable. I see miserable people. And there's a couple reasons why I have accepted the health situations and whatever. And we'll get into that in the future too. But tomorrow I came out to get a couple things. So I have something to work on tomorrow because the husband is having a medical procedure tomorrow, and I want to have something to work on, knitting or crocheting or something. I like to have my hands busy. I don't like to just sit, and I don't like to just sit and doom scroll on my phone. So I'm going to be knitting a little mini chicken for my granddaughter, Miss P. So that's what I'm out doing right now, and I'm gonna get something to eat before I go home because he can't eat today, and I don't want to torture him with bringing a hamburger home and eating it in front of him. So let me know, do you have trouble with downsizing, or doing what you need to do? Do you struggle with it? Because that's one of the things with senior citizens is, we're having to make decisions, and I'm not going to, take those decisions lightly. But like I said, I've seen so much with dealing with my 93-year-old mother and my 93-year-old mother-in-law that I just said to myself, we ain't doing that. We ain't going there. We're got to do things differently. So just let me know where you're at and what your situation is, and join me tomorrow. I'll be back home, and maybe I'll show you the big chaotic mess I'm dealing with. Bye from Gaga's farmhouse. Bye.